And essentially, the companies in that group will demo their product, and then kind of like the top six get selected to demo in front of a group of alumni who come back and then vote on what they thought was the coolest demo. And we ended up winning that, which was really cool because we got like this, Y Combinator poster with like all of the partners' signatures on it, which was really great to get. We have it hung up in our office today. Um, and I think that what we were able to wow people with was the fact that we've taken this like new approach to video editing, and we were able to show them like, you can take this one source video. We actually took like the Lightcone podcast, which Gary and the Y Combinator partners run, and like ran it through these three different branches, which were running in parallel and like simultaneously finding different shorts from the video and then like dubbing content into different languages. And I think people really enjoyed hearing Gary like talk in Spanish and French.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the sixth episode of the Hustling Unicorns with Harshith of the Harsh Show. This is a show where we talk to founders, founding engineers, VCs, operators, and other people in the startup ecosystem. Today, we have with us Adish Jain. Hey, Adish, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, how's it going? Hey Harshith.
Awesome. So, Adish is the founder of Mosaic, a YC W25 startup. So, Adish, why don't you talk about what Mosaic is for all those viewers who are not aware of what you guys are doing?
Yeah, for sure. So Mosaic is an agentic video editor. What we're trying to do is essentially reimagine what video editing is going to look like in this new agentic era that is upon us, and really trying to leverage multimodal AI and its capabilities and kind of this increasing progression of multimodal capability in AI to help automate some of the kind of manual, tedious processes of video editing. But really, the kind of goal for us is to develop an agent, really an entity that has creative taste and can, opinion about how edits should be made to invoke certain emotions or convey certain ideas. And that is really the goal with Mosaic.
Interesting. So when you talk about leveraging the latest multimodal capabilities and stuff like that, so are you guys talking about using existing models and like whatever frontier models come out, or are you guys like training your own models, or are you like fine-tuning models? What is it that you guys are like thinking of in your roadmap, or at least?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, like the frontier research labs are spending millions and millions of dollars to develop these like amazing models that have great like vision capability and like video understanding. We see no reason to like spend our time developing our own models unless we could push that boundary further. And I think as like a scrappy startup, there's so many resources already available to us where we really see Mosaic as a canvas that centralizes all of these resources into one place and then allows our users to build intelligent automations on top of them. I think the frontier models are like already very, very powerful, but users being able to actually use them effectively, there's like a gap there, and we're trying to fill that void. For example, you can go to AI, Google's AI Studio today at ai.dev and like ask questions about, your video, like, okay, where did certain words occur, or where did like the bad takes appear? And it could give you some good analysis, but it can't actually action on that analysis. And so for us to bridge that gap between the analysis that the frontier models can do and then the tools with which it can then apply those edits, and then you as a user can interface with the changes that it's making, that's the domain that we operate in.
Makes sense. So Alish, when I first saw your pitch slash your presentation, I think a couple of months in SF, I think what was really surprising was the whole workflow that you guys had built, right? The whole
Yeah.
agentic, the UI, the whole user experience. It was fantastic because when you look at like things like iMovie or like any professional video editing software people use these days, I think one is even if they try to integrate AI, I think like things like Runway or other people trying to integrate AI into whatever they're doing, it is still very different from what you are like taking an AI agent approach first kind of perspective, right? So how did you even come about with the idea of like using these multimodal agents for video editing and not video generation or something that's more commonplace these days?
Yeah. So I guess there's two different questions there, right? One is like, this UI experience in particular as compared to things like iMovie or Premiere Pro, which is like the more standard timeline. And then the second is kind of why video editing as opposed to video generation. So to answer that first one, I mean, and I think what anyone would intuitively think of when they think of like Cursor for video editing is essentially what Cursor did with VS Code, which is like you fork VS Code, you build in a chat copilot, it has the context of your code base, it can apply edits for you, and it's this like primarily chat interface, right? So when we started, that was essentially what we actually built. So that was our prototype initially, was like the standard nonlinear video editor interface with this integrated chat copilot. The idea was that it could see your video, hear your video, and then automate edits for you based on what it saw or heard. And I think that as we kind of iterated on this, we realized two kind of deep insights. The first is that today, like processing large, beefy video files is not a simple it's not a simple thing to do. Like it takes time, right? And so when you have this inherent prompt response UX that's kind of baked into chat, um, having the user kind of wait several minutes to like have your video get tokenized and then have the inference run and then have a response back, it just isn't a great user experience. And when you have this prompt response, you're kind of stalled until you get a response back and then send a new prompt and then another 5 minutes to get a response back. And so the chat interface breaks down when it comes to like these large video files that have a long processing time inherently. The other kind of problem there is like every time you've applied a new edit to the video, the state of the video has changed. And so either you have to retokenize the entire video or like intelligently re-index just the parts that have changed. And there are ways to do this. I mean, like what Cursor does when it comes to like your code base changes is it uses these like Merkle trees, which is like a data structure that efficiently tracks these like code changes that are being made and where the diffs are. And there's probably something there when it comes to video, which we're still exploring. But for us, the second insight that we also gained, from more of a just user perspective and workflow perspective is that a lot of video editors tend to have these predefined steps in their like editing workflows by and large, right? So especially people that are trying to scale up the amount of content they're making, they don't want to necessarily have these single point chat interactions with like every single video that they want to make because generally they're going through the same steps, right? So when you have these templates that you can kind of define by stitching together these different tiles in this canvas, and that kind of being your mosaic that you can then trigger programmatically via an API or kind of just run on autopilot as a background process that gets triggered when like a new video gets uploaded to your Dropbox or Google Drive folder, like that is powerful because now your whole video automation pipeline is a background process. It's like a background agent that gets triggered, it gets run, it could even post out content for you. And so there's a lot there when you shift the paradigm from a chat interface that requires these single point chat interactions to this like predefined workflow or automation or like really what I think about it is like it's an agentic workflow, right? So there are predefined steps that are being taken, but within each of those steps or tiles, there is a full kind of agentic process that is happening and you have an agent that's optimizing the actions that it's taking and then evaluating the actions that it's taking to really produce like the best output possible. So that's why we've taken this new approach as opposed to that previous approach with the kind of chat UI. The second question, as opposed to video generation, why are we focusing on video editing? I think video generation is really, really powerful. And like it's becoming increasingly apparent that it is going to be like a big, big part of like content in the future. I mean, like with like things like Runway Aleph, and with things like Google Veo 3, the possibilities are really becoming like endless when it comes to video generation. I think our bet and conviction with Mosaic is that our goal is to kind of allow that whole video generation um, process and content to be supplementary to kind of like raw footage that you would record yourself. And the reason that we are making this bet is because we think that human creativity and like the people's need to express themselves is never going to go away. And like AI content is great, and there's a role that it plays, but I think it should play a kind of supplementary role to like you and your creative expression. And so we in our platform are actually enabling like fully generative content workflows. And I think that that's useful for a lot of people, especially if they're trying to scale up, content. But for me personally, like I have always loved making like YouTube videos. That's kind of the whole reason this whole project started. And so um, I think it would be, I think it would be, I, I I think that it would be a kind of distraction if we were to only focus on that. I think our goal is to enable people that want to make their own content and share and express themselves, and have like a vision of how they want to do that expression to make that whole process easier. And so that's why we want to focus on editing, where like generations can be supplementary to the edit.
Makes sense. So the way you look at this right now, Adarsh, is this, do you look at this as like a platform for content creators only, or do you think like at some point it will also be like people making movies and stuff like that would also start using your platform? Like, what is the vision for you guys, at least like the way you see it?
I think for us, for now, we are definitely focused on more, I think, like hobbyists, creators, as well as people that want to make content at scale. So this is like, agencies, marketing teams, platforms that are trying to leverage our API to create like bulk video edits at scale. I think the kind of balance that needs to be struck for our platform as well as like any agentic platform is that you have automation, which is great for like scaling up your content, and that's often useful for like that kind of latter group that I was just talking about. And then you have like the kind of need and desire for granular level control when it comes to like frame by frame level detail, right? And that's really, really important for like people that are making like high budget, high quality production films, for example. And so I think for us at the moment, we are definitely focused more so on that like former part of this, right? So like automations, creating content at scale, where like the frame by frame level detail matters a little bit less, and more so what matters is being able to push out a lot of content quickly, have high throughput of content, be able to run your edit on autopilot. But we definitely want to still enable granular level control where you can let the automation run as like a pre-processing or post-processing step, and then you can always take this and export out to your traditional kind of nonlinear editor to make your final tweaks, polishes, have that granular level control, as well as actually give you an inline editor where you could do that within our application itself. I think as we refine and enable more of that granular level control, we can definitely start to move more upstream in the market. But right now, the focus is more so for that former group of people.
Makes sense. So, Adarsh, taking a step back, right? So, after you finished your degree from Berkeley, you went on to work, I think, at AWS, you worked at a startup, and then you went to Tesla. What was that journey like, and like, how did that end up with Adarsh building a platform for video editing? How did that happen?
Yeah, I guess like it's a pretty interesting story. Like we were not trying to make a company. We were just trying to make a video, right? So I've always, like I said, kind of been interested in making YouTube videos like ever since I got my first phone. It was like a flip phone, Sony Ericsson, back in fifth grade. Like I think I might have been 8 or 9 years old. I would record these videos with like my friends on and post them to YouTube. Kind of back in like the old days of YouTube, like Niga Higa style skits, like the kind of authentic style of YouTube content. And I remember there was this like one video that I had made very early on, which I like in my eyes at the time went viral. It was like, a Rubik's Cube tutorial where I was teaching people how to solve a 2x2 Rubik's Cube. And like it was amazing for me as like a kid to be able to share my content and my knowledge and have people get value from it. And like that was so cool to see, right? And I think I've always loved doing that, but as I started working at Amazon or like the startup that I was at or Tesla, like I had less and less time to do this. And that is often the case, right? So people always have kind of this inherent desire to express themselves, but they like not everyone is a professional editor or like a content creator. So how do you minimize that gap from like, okay, I've conceived an idea and I have this vision to like, okay, I'm gonna materialize this and like have a video, right? And unfortunately, video editing is in the critical path of every like idea going from conception to video. And so how do you minimize that critical path as much as possible? That was kind of the driving force. And in particular, like the video that I was trying to create at the time was one about Cybertrucks. And like I was going around Palo Alto and just literally trying to count the number of like Cybertrucks that were out on the road. This is when the Cybertruck vehicle had just gotten released, and the whole idea was like to make this really viral video where like for every Cybertruck that I spotted, I would buy a share of Tesla stock, and like this would be like a viral video. It was a completely creative endeavor, and I think like part of it, of course, was influenced by working at Tesla, but it was unrelated to my work whatsoever. Like it just a completely creative endeavor for me. And so even just doing that, right? Like going around and recording hours of these cars driving by, and then trying to come back and like having to scrub through all of this footage and like find when these Cybertrucks appear and like add a counter and update it. Even that seemingly simple edit was like a very manual, tedious process. And so the whole kind of project there was just like, can we just make this faster? And so like the first thing that we tried is just like using existing computer vision models and like just writing a script, right, which can like detect these Cybertrucks and like just let us know how many of them there are. But even if it could do that, again, that's the like analysis part of it. But then how do you bridge the gap from like analysis to the video edit? And so what we'd have to do then is like, okay, I am not a pro video editor. So like what I was finding myself doing is like going to ChatGPT and asking it how it could do certain things in DaVinci Resolve, and then coming back to DaVinci. And like that in itself was like, okay, well, that whole interaction where I have to like switch between applications can be solved by like an inline copilot, right? Just like Cursor did for
Sure.
code. And so these ideas kind of came together, and we were like, okay, let's try and build the Cursor for video editing. And that's kind of how this whole thing started. So it really was just like creative tinkering around and like trying to make content myself, and having that be difficult, and I wanted it to be easier.
Makes sense. So when you came up with this, when you figured out that that was a problem, right, and you wanted to work on fixing it, so do you just go out there and start like building it by yourself? Did you leave your job at Tesla? Do you start building it by yourself? And talk to us about that process and about how you met Kyle and what it was from the time you understood there was a pain point to till you applied to YC. What was that whole timeline
Yeah,
like or
yeah,
process
yeah.
like?
So I think timeline wise, essentially I met Kyle when I was working at Tesla. That was back in about April or so. He was doing an internship on the team I was on, and then he had kind of actually finished that internship and wrapped that up and gone back to UCSD to complete his master's. And for me, I was still working at Tesla, and then I was also kind of again creatively just tinkering on the side about like making video content, or just like exploring creative passions that I had, right? And at the same time, I had also hit Kyle up and just like messaged him to work on certain kind of like side projects together. Um, kind of just like very you know, very nonchalantly. Like there was no goal or objective here. It was just like, hey, I really liked working with you while you were at Tesla. He was brilliant, and he had done some really cool projects while he was working at Tesla. And so he had left an impression on me, and I just decided to like hit him up and just like see if we could, work together and just build things. And so we were actually working on like a variety of different projects. We are initially building like competitive like or like stock markets for competitive gamers. And so like while Kyle was actually at Tesla, he was working on this for this rhythm game called Osu, where Osu is like a rhythm game, kind of like you can think of it like a Guitar Hero type of game, but like on the browser, and there's like like circles that appear, and you kind of have to like navigate them quickly and according to like the beat of like a soundtrack or something. And so he had like made this game where you could actually invest in the players of Osu, and then if their kind of player ranking went
Was
up in the game, then your stock portfolio value goes up. Now, of course, like not using real money here because that would kind of fall into the realm of gambling, but he was able to actually build a community around this, just like with a single post on Reddit, and this quickly grew to like many thousands of users. And so that was something he was doing while he was still working at Tesla. And I was just blown away by that. And I knew instantly that I would want to be working with him on whatever I wanted to work on. And so I hit him up, and we started trying to actually kind of extend what he had done with Osu to other games. So we built out a similar type of platform, but for League of Legends, which is like a much more popular game and much more mainstream. And we were working on that for a bit. Realized that we don't really have like a real like passion for this, and we were just kind of building things because it had worked for this other game, and we wanted to try to
Just
replicate that.
replicate that. Yeah.
And so, that was actually like when we had applied to YC for the first time together, and didn't get in because obviously, like, we were not meant to do that. And then at the same time, we're exploring this like more kind of just creative uh, tinkering with like the video stuff, and like had this idea of like just making video editing easier. And we immediately kind of shifted gears from like what we were working on with the whole League of Legends stock platform to this, and in just very like quickly 2 days we put together a prototype. So we immediately got to building, and the great part there is we had already been working together, so we were able to shift gears very quickly and just say like, okay, this is the exact task. We need to count these Cybertrucks, and we need to automate this process. Let's just do this single thing. Like the only thing that that prototype could do was analyze your video and add text overlays. But it was able to do that Cybertruck counting example and reduce it from the hours it would have taken us down to like a mere chat prompt. And that was powerful. That was the unlock that we needed to say, okay, well, now that we've done this for this one specific use case, we can now start to extend.
Generalize. Yeah. Makes sense. So, Adish, when I first heard about the whole idea of the coolest demo of the YC batch or program that you guys have, I was surprised and like even so cool that you guys actually got that. So, what is this whole coolest demo thing about? And what did you guys demo there?
Yeah, so the demo competition with YC is just something that they run every batch within like YC's two different groups. I think they run it individually in each group. So we were in one of the groups, and they did this demo competition. And essentially, the companies in that group will demo their product, and then kind of like the top six get selected to demo in front of a group of alumni who come back and then vote on what they thought was the coolest demo. And we ended up winning that, which was really cool because we got like this, Y Combinator poster with like all of the partners' signatures on it, which was really great to get. We have it hung up in our office today. And I think that what we were able to wow people with was the fact that we've taken this like new approach to video editing, and we were able to show them like, you can take this one source video. We actually took like the Litecoin podcast, which Gary and the Y Combinator partners run, and like ran it through these three different branches, which were running in parallel and like simultaneously finding different shorts from the video and then like dubbing content into different languages. And I think people really enjoyed hearing Gary like talk in Spanish and French with like the fidelity of his voice maintained. And then like, being able to add B-rolls and background music. And I think that whole idea that you could take this node-based approach to creating video content wowed people. And I think the best part about like our product is that it's of course very visual because we're dealing with video, and so like it is immediately clear what it does and how it works when you demo it. And so yeah, we were lucky enough to win that, and really grateful for the alumni to have chosen us.
Absolutely. So, Alish, what learnings do you think you had from YC? Because when I talk to different founders, like everyone has like different learnings, and one thing I've noticed is a lot of people pivot through their ideas when they get into YC. But I think as I'm talking to you about what Mosaic's been doing, it feels like you guys were have like stuck to the path you guys had picked up. So, what other learnings did you get from your partners, from your peers, and like from the alum of the whole community?
I think for us, we didn't necessarily pivot, but we definitely iterated, right? And like the initial goal we had of building like this chat copilot was not what we ended up actually building. But our goal has always been the same, which is to accelerate video editing from hours down to seconds. And so, yeah, I think like a big learning that we got just like from like a product perspective is like talk to users, understand what they want, and critically think from first principles, especially now, right? Because like there have been these paradigms that have been established. Like the nonlinear editor has existed for like many, many decades now. And like I think it's very easy to think about like, okay, what would cursor for video look like? Well, it would be the same interface, but like with a chat copilot. And like I think the chat copilot has become so ubiquitous because of like things like ChatGPT and Cursor, where like that is the first thought that people have. And I mean, that could very well be the case, but like I think the big learning there is like if you think critically from first principles about like not just what you know, but like what you don't know. Like, what are new experiences? What are new interfaces that can be created now? And specifically now, because of like this whole AI unlock, I think that that could actually completely change how you think about like your product. Um, it did for us. And then I think the second learning there is like, um, honestly just like keep moving forward. Like it's never clear how something is going to pan out, or whether a certain decision is the right one. And you could spend like days or weeks thinking and thinking and thinking about it, or you could just do it, and you could just do it very quickly and like scrappily, and you can do that so much more quickly now because you can prototype so quickly now. And just like do it and like play around with it and give it to users and like understand what they're doing with it, and then iterate and iterate and iterate. Like the way I think about it is like, you know, we are artisans, so we want to create the best, highest quality product, but at the same time, we don't want to spend too much time doing that on like the wrong iteration of the idea. So like we're essentially gradient descending down. So like what is the most
That's
salient.
exactly what I was thinking about as well.
Yeah. So like we're essentially, gradient descending down to like the most salient version of Mosaic, which is going to accelerate video editing from hours down to seconds with like the best user experience and the best user interface. And so every iteration there might not be perfect, and you can prototype quickly and like slowly iterate to what is that best kind of like version. And then from there, that's when you truly be like an artisan. And so I think like just moving fast and like prototyping quickly. Yeah.
Right. I think that makes a lot of sense, right? Like, so if you have a huge learning rate and you're just like skipping through points, there's a good chance you're not going to go anywhere. But if you're like having a shorter iteration period, there's a good point you can like go to the local minimum or maximum, or whatever you're actually aiming for.
Exactly.
Um, So, Adish, when it comes to video editing softwares right now, right, we've spoken about both Premiere Pro, about iMovie, and things like that. So, is there a reason they're not taking the canvas approach that you're taking? And do you think that they would ever try to enter into that kind of a space? Or like, have you guys thought about that as like something that might happen?
Definitely thought about it. I think like a lot of these kind of traditional video editors, again, like I think starting from first principles, especially when you're building like a very AI native product, is it's easy to like start from completely new user interfaces. Um, I think because like existing tools obviously have like a very well established interface and experience, for them to like move that ship in this whole new direction with like a canvas would be a pretty massive undertaking. Not to say it's not possible, but I think that it's just a completely different product. Um, I think that they are taking the approach of retrofitting AI into existing tooling, right? So you can like have your cake and eat it too, in the sense that you don't need to build like an AI native product, but now you have all these tools that you can expose to this AI copilot, which I think is like a valid approach. I think again, it's going to run into some of the issues that like we talked about earlier, which is like, you're going to be waiting several minutes if you're having this like chat response. You could also be limited in terms of like how much people can scale up their content if you're like having these single point chat interactions be the main like way a video is edited. And so I think it's just a completely different product, honestly. Yeah.
Makes sense. So, Adish, how are you guys finding your customers right now? Are you good customers, or are customers coming to you? Are these independent individuals, like single people, like people, content creators, or putting up videos on YouTube like me? Or are these like you spoke about, ad agencies, marketing agencies? What kind of customers do you have right now?
Yeah, so all across the board, honestly, we're in a closed beta at the moment, so like we have limited the scope of like who can join the beta at the moment. We will be opening that up shortly, like probably later this month to anyone. But right now, I think it really spans across all of these different kind of segments. So like there are individual creators and like hobbyists who just like make their own kind of YouTube content or Instagram reel content. Gamers that like stream a couple hours of gaming content and then want to find like the best moments where they like got the kill shot in like the first person shooter game that they're playing. um there's like marketing teams and ad agencies that want to create these automation workflows and then like run these at scale. And then the like platform use case is again a big one where like you have these UGC style content um engines essentially that are like trying to pair up influencers with like brands, and they like get all of this raw footage from these influencers, and they get these brand briefs from these brands that they work with, and like trying to juggle all of the content with like the kind of asks of these brands is like a very tedious thing in terms of like, okay, well, we need like the content's formatted in this way, but the influencer has given it to us in this way. And like there's like multiple revisions and touch points that are happening there. And so like as much as you can automate that process using our API, that's like very, very beneficial for a lot of like these larger ad agencies and platforms. So yeah, I'd say those are like three broad segments and then kind of like all across the board.
Makes sense. So are these customer needs very are they like common across the three? Are they different across the three? And like how are you guys addressing the differences maybe? Because you guys still early stage, right? So you guys do not have like the manpower to focus on each of them. So how are you guys dealing with like these different customer segments altogether?
Yeah. I think the beautiful part about the canvas is like you really can support all of these different workflows because each tile is so modular where like we've developed a framework, and now for every new like use case or user persona, it's a matter of developing like the tiles that they need to like build their own workflows. Because once you've built your own work, like if you think about like something like N8N, right, or Gumloop, like they give you the tool and the tooling, and then you as the user define like what it is that you actually want to do, right? In terms of like the automation that you want to build. And so it can support marketers, it can support founders, it can support really anyone trying to automate anything. And we're narrowing the scope down to video editing, which is still a freaking broad scope, but we're like able to support all of these different use cases because what we're building is a framework and tooling. And then you can define how you want to use that tooling.
It makes sense. I think people who see the modular design, the whole canvas and the tiles approach that you guys have, I think will clearly understand what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So, Adish, since you guys have already raised a pre-seed fund, right? What is the timeline you guys have for a seed fund? What are metrics you guys are tracking? Is it number of videos edited or number of videos published, or is it the duration of the videos that are getting edited on the platform? How do you guys? What matters to you guys?
Yeah. We've already raised our seed, and we did
Nice.
that shortly after YC. We haven't announced it yet, so yeah, we'll be hopefully announcing that soon. And then I think the kind of metrics that we're tracking when it comes to like just like having a good pulse on how users are using the product is like right now it's number of downloads. So like, okay, you can go through this whole process, but are you at the end of the day like downloading the video from Mosaic, which means that you got utility out of it enough where like this is something that you can use, or are you exporting it to like DaVinci Premiere Pro? Um, and then the third one is, are you posting content? So we actually have a full-on content engine that we've built that integrates with your social platforms, and you can actually post content directly onto, TikTok, X, LinkedIn, whatever. Um, so that's kind of the third metric. I think that because we're in a closed beta right now, like all of these numbers are obviously like small, kind of by intention. I think hopefully, again, later this month when we do our public launch, um, we will see how these metrics actually shape up.
What is one golden metric for you, Alish? Is it the number of people who are directly posting through Mosaic itself on these platforms, or is it the number of people who are downloading it? Which would matter more to you?
I think that there's a lot of other services which do the whole posting thing. I think like we are doing that because it's a simple add-on to like already editing your video content. But that's not the golden metric for us. The golden metric for us is like, are you getting utility out of this product when it comes to editing your videos? And I think like the downloading um is really like I won't even say downloading necessarily, because that's not necessarily the action that like people will take when their video is like said to be good. What it really is it's like, have you reached a state where you can say your edit is complete? Um, and I think like there might not be any one single metric to track there, but like a combination of multiple, which is again like, okay, if you're posting your content, it is good, right? Like you've posted it, so you've made that determination. If you've downloaded it, it's probably also good. Um, if you've exported it to like a different editor, maybe there's like some tweaking and polishing you have to do. But I think that that's also like a great state for us to be in, because people got enough value from the edit so far where they can then go and take it and like run with it. And so that's, I think, also like I would say it's a combination of those three, honestly. Yeah, that would be like the one kind of golden metric for us.
That makes sense. So, has there been any unexpected challenge that you guys faced or like have overcome when you were building Mosaic? Something that you did not know would happen when you guys started building the whole product?
Well, I don't think we thought that it would end up looking as it does today. Like I think like where we started and where we are now is like starkly different. Which is, I think, again, like you're navigating this idea maze constantly and you just continue to iterate and iterate and iterate. Um, I think the biggest challenge, honestly, just dealing with video. Like video is, it's like a really
Heavy.
beefy file format's very heavy. Scaling up our infra to be able to handle like video renders, as well as just like, man, like even just thinking about kind of what our architecture looks like today, and how quickly it's gotten quite complex. I would say it's been a challenge to like scale that whole infra to be able to support like our launch, which will be coming. And yeah, honestly, just like iterating over and over. I think like the other kind of challenge there, at least initially, was just like trying to build our own video editor, right? So like initially when we had this chat copilot and we were trying to literally build our own video editor to automate video editing, like I think that was a huge challenge in its own right. Like that's a whole product in itself, right?
Right.
And like I think what we quickly realized is like we shouldn't be trying to recreate the wheel here. We should be trying to build the AI part of this, not the like editor part of this, which already exists. And so we like I think quickly navigated away from that, which was a good decision, I think. But like yeah, I think the other kind of big challenge has also been what I was alluding to earlier, which is like automation is great, but how do you still give people granular level control? So like how do you balance these two different things? And so honestly, like a big part of our whole process and challenge has been like the design of the product. How do we actually make it so that people can easily navigate from a running of the agent state to like a, okay, I just want to go back to my simple editor state. And I think Cursor nails this because you have your agent and it's just able to make these diffs and edits for you, but you can always go back to using Cursor as just like a traditional code IDE, right? Um, Achieving that for something like video is like I think a little bit just more complex. You don't have like diffs that you can represent very easily, right? You could show that in your timeline, but I think like people also like visually want to see what has changed, right? And so you have this like separate component here. So figuring out that whole UI and UX has also been, I think, maybe one of the bigger challenges in addition to like the, of course, scaling up the infra and backend.
Makes sense. So, Adish, where do you see Mosaic going in 2 years? Like, are you guys building to be the number one video editing platform, or do you have like greater ambitions? Like, what is it that you guys are looking for?
Our goal is to build the Argo agent. And the Argo agent, what it stands for is a really good opinionated agent. So it's something that would have creative taste, something that we can codify the grammar of video editing into, and it can actually then make its own decisions to edit your video for you, learn your style and preferences, and then optimize. Um, that is really the goal. The goal is to minimize the barriers to entry for video editing for anyone, bringing in like millions of people into the fold, as well as reducing the friction at every single point of interaction. Like, if you think about video editing today, there is like so many steps that a user has to take when it comes to even just like taking their files from their hard drive and uploading it, and then from there importing it, and then from there searching through those, and then from there creating a rough cut, and then from there adding like b-roll, and then music, and then sound design, and then creative like graphics, and then text, and then captions, and like, and then exporting it, and then posting it. Like, every single point of that process has friction, and how do we reduce that and minimize that as much as possible, and do that from like a very AI native, like agentic approach. Um, that is the goal.
Wow, that is an elaborate goal. But at the same time, I can see as someone who's like editing videos for YouTube, putting them up on LinkedIn, making reels and like adding that subtitles and all those things, I completely understand the merit of that. So, Adish, as we come towards the end of the podcast episode, right? So, what do you have any tips or any advice you'd want to give to engineers working in other companies in big tech, say, who are on the edge of deciding whether they want to, drop it all and build something? Do you have any advice for them on what made you take that leap of faith, or what they should be looking out for?
I think that honestly, creative tinkering and having high agency are like the two, I think, things that really helped us get started with Mosaic. Questioning like every idea from first principles. Like, ultimately, like everything that we know to exist today was created by someone who had an idea that things should exist in this way. And so having high agency means, well, questioning why do things exist in this way, and does that have to be the case. And then creative tinkering just allows you to find problems where they might exist, right? So like for me, trying to make a video, I found the problem of video editing being hard, and it was a authentic problem that I actually genuinely had. And so I think like the reason that that initial idea of like the League of Legends stock market failed is because I had no interest in that. I would not use that platform, but I would absolutely use a platform like Mosaic because I make video content. And so like working on a problem that is authentic to you and like what you know and why you want to build it is going to speak volumes in like any application to an accelerator, but also just like help you stay motivated in this like decade long journey that you might be part like starting. And then yeah, having high agency on like every aspect of like decisions you make, like especially today, right? Like the whole notion that like things have to be in a certain way can now be questioned, and AI is like flipping a lot of concepts and paradigms on their head. And so you have the ability to be like high agency with all of these like AI agents that like enable so much more now.
100%. That makes sense. So, Adish, as we come towards the end of the episode, is there a demo that you want to share with the audience? Because I know, seeing it firsthand, that you guys have built something really cool.
Yeah.
And with the public beta coming up soon, I'm sure a lot of people can also access it. So, do you want to maybe share some of those things?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen. Cool. So can you see my screen okay?
Yes.
Great. So this is Mosaic. The idea is you can now come into Mosaic and create, your Mosaic. And so you can now, and I think this is going to look pretty different than what you had seen in the demo previously, Harshith. We've been working a lot on like the UI and the UX and just making this a lot more usable as well. And so you can simply just drag from the video input tile and start, connecting these different nodes to create your mosaic. So for example, if I want to take a podcast, let's say I have let me see let me see if I can find one. And actually maybe I from this session we could run a mosaic and like try to produce some clips. I think that'd be a pretty fun
100%.
exercise to do. But yeah, like I'm uploading a podcast right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create some clips from it. And then maybe for each of those clips, I'm just going to add some captions. You can even branch off into like multiple different branches here and like try out different things. So maybe in another one of these, I actually want to reframe the clips into like a 9:16 aspect ratio. So maybe these ones will actually go on like Instagram or TikTok. And then from there, I will add the captions into those as well. And then I think for both of these, I actually also want to add the watermark, like the Mosaic logo. And then I also want to add an outro. And boom, that's it. So I've made my Mosaic, right? I think the video upload might be lagging a little bit because I'm actually on the guest network here, but let me try that again. While that's running though, as you can see, you kind of have this like, timeline view and video preview baked into the canvas now. So previously these were like secondary screens or components. Now we've actually made it so that this is inline and you can actually go ahead and run your automation and then pause it at any point, tweak things at a more granular level in this timeline view, and then come back and, run the automation or pick it up from where you left off. And so this is now powerful because again, speaking to that point of like automation versus granular control, it gives you kind of the ability to go back and forth between the two. So while this is uploading, I think the upload is taking a little bit of time here. Maybe I can show you one that I've already ran. Let me go ahead and find one in my library. Give me a sec. Okay, so do. Yeah, so I can show you one here, which I think is pretty good. Let me share this one. So for example, this one is, a video that we took of like, Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, early days of Apple. I can play the kind of raw footage.
Jobs would eventually cross paths with a computer wizard at Berkeley, 5 years his senior, named Steve Wozniak. They became fast friends, sharing a love of high tech pranks and a disdain for authority. One of
Great. And so, it's going through this footage, and what I've gone ahead and done is I've said, "Hey, I want to add some captions here and some B-roll," right? And you can see all of the B-rolls that were generated in the timeline directly, right? So I can actually go ahead and see, okay, well, this B-roll was added, this B-roll was added, this B-roll was added. And actually, I think let me play it from here and show you.
the things they did was to copy and improve an illicit device called the blue box, which
And so, when they talk about blue box, the agent actually went ahead and generated this video of this blue box and placed it on the timeline. But I maybe want to tweak this and actually move this up slightly when they actually mention the word blue box. And so I again have that granular level control where the automation has ran and the agent actually went ahead and generated this video, placed it on my timeline, but now I can tweak where it's placed or how long it's placed for and move it around as needed as well, right? So that balance, I think, was and is one of the kind of major improvements we've made from the previous iteration. I think the other one here, it just added a simple watermark, and again, you can see that image that got added and where it got added. So here I have my Mosaic logo. In fact, I can open this up in a full kind of editor view as well and show you what that looked like. So I have to zoom in here slightly. Um, and so I've got my Mosaic logo. I can place this wherever I want, and have like this watermark now on my video. And so this is again just like a very simple edit that I've made now to again just move where the position was of that, and have that granular level control again. And now that I've done that, I can simply come back into my like canvas view and say, okay, now the watermark looks good. It's positioned correctly. The size is correct. And now I want to go ahead and start to do other things. So maybe now I want to add like a, I don't know, like some AI music, for example, right? And so having this ability to kind of go back and forth between these two different modes, is one of the big changes we've made from like the previous iteration.
This looks pretty cool, pretty fantastic.
Yeah, we've been putting in a lot of time to make this kind of work, and excited to kind of share this with everyone in the public beta launch soon.
Absolutely. Cool. Thanks, Adish. This was a fantastic episode, and I got to learn a lot. And I'm sure people who are watching this will also be pretty motivated, pretty interested with what you guys are building. If nothing, use your product at the least. So thanks a lot for your time, Adish. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you having the conversation, man. Looking forward to the podcast when it comes out, and shoot it over to me. Let's like run it through Mosaic, get some clips. It'll be great.
100%, 100%. Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for watching in this episode. If you like such content, please do not forget to hit subscribe.